News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Welcome to The Movement on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
News and Talk 1380 WAOK, the voice of the community. I am your brother. Okay, I'm feeling, some kind of way. So I'm bumping some of my European jazzical brethren. Some of that David Sanborn, man. Before I saw his picture, I really thought he was a black dude on the horn. I ain't no lie. 404-892-2703. He does a great job of imitation, you must admit. To the last. And I guess imitation is the highest form of flattery. Maybe he'll be changing his name to Leroy Sanborn. All right. Okay. I need to make a quick pivot. For those of you who are standing by, I want you to continue to do that as I bring in on my black line Jeffrey Clayton, the executive director of the American Bail Coalition, which is a trade organization that is committed to developing the most efficient means for the pretrial release of criminal defendants by reducing the financial impact on government and taxpayers while maximizing public safety. Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, put your hands together for Jeffrey Clayton, if you don't mind. Welcome to the movement, Mr. Clayton.
Thanks for having me on. And applause.
Oh man, it's my honor. Tell me about the American Bail Coalition and what you are undertaking currently as it relates to practices in the bail industry, I'll call it.
Sure. So the American Bail Coalition are underwriters of bail bondsmen throughout the country, and we're working on the bail reform issue in general. And one of the things that has popped up in the last couple of weeks is this idea that 115 civil rights groups have said that the solution to bail reform, which is basically a bail computer to decide who gets bail and whether they get house arrest or GPS or drug screening, has problems with racial bias and probably should no longer be used in the criminal justice system. And for the last 10 years, that has been the answer. And I think that's going to cause a major change in where this whole bail reform conversation is going.
What kind of changes are you expecting to come?
Well, I think most states and local governments were looking at, we'll just put the computer in. And, looking back on it, it seemed kind of naive. But I think now the movement is going to be, we need to have more individualized consideration.
You say a computer was making the decisions, but and I know that garbage in is garbage in, garbage out. If the persons who are creating the code and putting in the information are biased, then the computations of the computer will be biased as well, yes?
That's right, and I think just the basic way to think about this is if we take a picture of the current system, which is what a computer program would do, and then we just pigeonhole people into these boxes, let's back up a second. Everybody's saying that the criminal justice system discriminates against black defendants. And so if we're going to lock ourselves into that mentality, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, you asking the chicken and egg question, which one comes first? Of course, we know the bias discrimination, that comes first. And then after that, all those things that are part of the system are tainted with that original viri, if you will. So moving forward, what plans does the American Bail Coalition have for bringing about a more just and equitable system as relates to bail for black people versus others?
Well, one of the things that we've realized is that we just we label people too easily in the system rather than listening to their stories and letting them plead their case in front of judges. So that's one thing, and there's been a lot of litigation down in Georgia on the idea that on these low-level crimes, we're just using bail as a collection mechanism. We're not getting serious about it, and we're not having any, realistic due process. And, there's been cases in Georgia where somebody's in on a $160 bail and can't see a judge for 14 days.
Right.
And that's wrong, and we got to stop that.
Okay. And so, again, are there any measures that are being put into place that are going to combat that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter in Georgia about, do we need as much bail for misdemeanor cases? Because a lot of people are going to show up anyway on some of these low-level cases, and a lot of people aren't going to show up anyway. And, $160 bail is not going to make the difference.
Let me ask you this. As public sentiment and even industry is moving toward the acceptance of cannabis, and laws, particularly here in Atlanta, just changed related to less than an ounce of cannabis. You can no longer be arrested for that, but you can be ticketed. Is there any response being generated by your organization to adjust to that new adaptation in understanding how cannabis is legislated or adjudicated?
Well, our position is that if the state wants to decriminalize things, we can't get in the way of that. I live in the state of Colorado where not only, is it legal, it's encouraged to help the tax base. Mm-hmm. But if governments want to say this shouldn't be criminal, then that stops all the consequences of getting arrested, having to post bail, having to get an attorney, and all that sort of thing. So that's a good thing, I think.
Okay. If people want more information about your organization, where can they go to get that?
We're on Facebook and Twitter, and of course you can visit our website at AmericanBailCoalition.org.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, put your hands together for Jeffrey Clayton. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You do the same. 404-892-2703.